you know, the there's going to be some people who have a look at the Tory collapse, and when we get, because there will be a lot of, trust me, there's going to be a lot of analysis done at this, general election. What happened here? Why did this happen? Is this just another consequence of the seismic shockwaves that were caused by Brexit? Every explanation of the sun is going to be offered about what happened, why it happened. There will be numerous answers, questions, whatever you can say about it. But there is one point in particular which I think a lot of people will point to, and that will be, why didn't the Tories worry, or should we say start panicking, maybe a lot earlier, maybe when they could have done stuff when they were losing the farming vote? Because this is something that has been consistently under pressure since Brexit. And the farming lobby in particular has been very, very much in the camp of, these Brexit deals you were doing are absolutely awful. The New Zealand and Australia deal, well, particularly the Australian deal, is going to massively undermine the UK homegrown market. It could be disastrous wipeout for us, and you've put almost a 15-year ticking clock on it. So, thanks, Boris, or should we say, thanks, Liz. I really do have to wonder if you could track almost like when this farming vote goes away, because it's difficult to look at when you look at the big data, when you look at Brexit. A lot of people say, oh, farmers all voted for Brexit. No, they were very much split. They were really split. If you go on Liz Webster's channel, she's a farmer. Talks a lot about farming. Surprise, surprise. But no, she says it herself. Farmers were split. Very, very split. And it all did come down to the Common Agricultural Policy, the CAP. There were a lot of farmers legitimately complaining that this farmer over here, who is already very rich, very wealthy, has thousands of acres of land, who gets a stupid amount of CAP money for sitting and doing nothing, where I am a farmer, I am a smaller farmer, and I get nothing. And bear in mind, once the British government got that money, they could have changed it. They could have done stuff with it. They could have even talked to Europe about what they were going to do and all this kind of stuff. But of course, they didn't choose to do any of that. They could have, even if they wanted to, just replicate the whole subsidy scheme. Just instead of calling it, I don't know, what's it called? CAPS, Common Agricultural Policy. I don't know. Maybe you call it UCAP, the UK Agricultural Policy. They could have done something just as easy as that, and continue to sort of subsidize these farmers. And I guarantee you, if they had just said, we are going to just copy and paste CAP, but instead of it come from Europe, it's going to come from like the UK Treasury. We're going to subsidize, our farmers. They could have copied and pasted it. They could have just legitimately just copied and pasted it. Farmers would have ultimately complained about it. The exact same criticisms would have come in again. But they'd have kept the farming vote. They'd have even kept the Agricultural Land Management Association on side. Because it was not too, well, must have been a year ago, I think. And I'm sure we talked about Theresa Coffey and how she wasn't going to the MUN conference, which was a big thing because they felt that it was now just not a safe place for a Tory because they would get booed. But even at the Agricultural Land Management Conference, a conference and a group of people who they thought would be a lot more safer and more on their side. Oh no, they were booing in droves at Theresa Coffey. So they have really, really, truly lost the farming vote almost utterly and completely, and especially in rural areas, where they rely quite heavily on that vote. You'd have thought they would have paid a lot more attention. And the Lib Dems, and Tim Fallon in particular, the former leader of the Lib Democrats, says it himself in the piece in Financial Times today. Here it is. And let me show you the quote. So he said here, yeah, there's a real sense that farmers have just been completely thrown under the bus, said the former Lib Dem leader, Tim Farron, who has long championed upland farmers. He's currently now trying to defend his Cumbrian seat of Westmoreland, where he says, because they've now traditionally voted Conservatives, the farmers do feel betrayed, he said, adding that this was because of the botched transition to the new farming subsidy scheme and the post-Brexit trade deals, which farmers will now fear will undercut British produce. And he's not wrong. he's not wrong, because you've got a guy up here, again, upland farmer. He said, I feel like we've been really ignored by ministers, Pedley said. The payment received today are just a third of what they were before the EU scheme started to be phased out in 2021, he added. Part of the problem is his farm is just not eligible for much of the support offered through the UK's new Environmental Land Management Scheme, or the ELM, now set up to replace the lost EU funds. You know, all of this stuff is just going. And someone else here, as a traditional Conservative voter, I really do not quite know which way to turn. So they are massively losing out. In fact, is that that's the number of UK farm businesses, again, being really hit by the pandemic. Really hit. That's kind of shocking that we lost that amount of agricultural businesses during that time. Really shocking. But again, just goes to show you the impact of COVID still affecting the UK, just as the 2008 financial crisis is still affecting the UK. Not a lot of people realize that, but it is. So yeah, them losing the farming vote in this much magnitude, I think, once again, they won't ask this question. They will not ask this question because they will not want to ask this question. At what point did we realize we were losing the farming vote? Well, they lost a lot, I think, in 2016. I think when the deal came through from Boris Johnson, that's when you saw more of the support lose. And then I think the big killer was pointed out by that farmer. First of all, the decision to the ELAMs, which, again, some farmers can't even use. Upland farmers can't even use it. Oh, yes, plant a forest on this incredibly rocky outcrop. How can I do that? Farmers ask. But that's just the situation that they are in. They've screwed themselves over. ELAMs have not been a suitable replacement. And in particular, NUM farmers been telling them that since the very beginning, when they first announced this scheme is not suitable to help support UK farmers. So they've known about how bad it is. The trade agreement with Australia in particular, again, probably another big data point where they will have lost a lot of support. I think you combine just all that together, they've lost it. And that was at one time almost used to be a vote they could just, oh, don't worry, we've got the farming vote in the bag. Not anymore. But yeah, we'll see what happens when, this time next week, be all over. We'll know who's won. We'll know what the vote share was, and I'm sure we'll start getting all the Tory civil warring. We'll be kicking off full full force. But hey, we'll wait until then to see what happens. But of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, you can click the YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. And of course, we'll see you all next time. So until then, we'll see you all very soon.